Crowds gather near the Justice Center. This gathering has been declared a riot. All persons leave the area now.
The shockwave of a national controversy once again shaking up downtown Portland as the acquittal of Kyle Rittenhouse is shortly followed by political destruction here in the Rose City. It's 11 o'clock. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Giannolo.
And I'm Elizabeth Din. Tonight, we're tracking this breaking news in downtown Portland. Jennifer Dowling joining us live now. And Jennifer, what is the latest?
Well, around 200 people had gathered at the Justice Center and the Portland Police Bureau by about at 9 o'clock. They started gathering at 7 o'clock and they were chanting outside the Bureau. And then around 9 o'clock, Portland Police, on behalf of the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, declared a riot. Take a listen.
You are subject to force to include pepper spray and impact weapons.
And that announcement came at around 9 o'clock, and police also announced on a loudspeaker that people had been heard saying they wanted to burn down the Justice Center. Police also say windows were broken and doors damaged. We have some video there from an office space off of Southwest First that really had some window damage there. For a time, the crowd also blocked Southwest 2nd and Main by the Justice Center and the Portland Police Bureau and began to tear down fencing and construction signs to use as street barricades. They had been banging on the doors and the gate at the Portland Police Bureau and yelling anti-police chants for much of the night until that riot was declared by the Sheriff's Office. Also, we saw trash fires and other debris set on fire in the streets. Now, we spoke to Lewis and Clark law professor Tung Yin earlier this evening, and he says he wasn't surprised by the verdict, given the way the prosecution laid out its case in the Rittenhouse trial, only focusing on provocation very late in the trial. Yin says that the verdict might set a precedent in people's minds for future protests. This is what he had to say.
Will somebody be emboldened to say, hey, you know, Rittenhouse got away with this, and so I'm going to show up in downtown Portland and protect these buildings with my AR-15 or whatever, and if anybody tries to grab it for me, I'm going to shoot them.
So it remains to be seen what happens for future protests. And this potential for unrest comes 5 months after the rapid response team resigned. That was PPB's unit assigned to riots. Chief Chuck Lavelle said this afternoon he was working on a plan for tonight and this weekend. He said it would be a combination of precinct resources and people they could hire on overtime and any resources they could get from local partners. Now, there may be a few people that are out still tonight. We saw a few people roaming around, but that big crowd of 200 has broken up at this time. Reporting live in Portland, Jennifer Dowling, Point 6 News.
People were arrested after protest in Queens in reaction to the verdict. The NYPD tweeting these pictures overnight of a car that was vandalized in the spirit of protest in Middle Village. Police say while it's important to protect the First Amendment, it's equally important to protect the safety of New Yorkers. Things were more peaceful in Brooklyn. A group gathered outside Barclays Center and then made its way over the Brooklyn Bridge and into Lower Manhattan. The demonstration was peaceful. Police are not reporting any arrests there.
Well, I wasn't really surprised because at that point I had heard that that a lot of right-wing people like Rittenhouse who had traveled out of state to really escalate violence, I knew that he was gonna get away with it.
I mean, it's absurd to me, and it really reveals like how broken the system is.
Demonstrations also remained peaceful in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where protesters included dozens of community activists and the family members of the shooting victims. A few of those protesters were detained, but no acts of violence were reported.
Well, I am on the Mag Mile right now, Natalie and Anthony, and I can tell you that Chicago police are not confirming that these crimes are instances of looting. But what we do know is that protesters, they wanted their voices heard in downtown Chicago tonight. They had a protest over at Federal Plaza and then another one at Millennium Park. They say today's
sets a very dangerous precedent, because since he's not guilty on all 4 counts, this man went up there from Illinois to Wisconsin with an AR-15 with the intent to kill.
At one point, you could see protesters stop traffic on Michigan Avenue. They believe the acquittal was unfair and shows the justice system isn't just for all.
In solidarity with Jacob Blake and his family, in solidarity with the families of Anthony Huber and Joseph Rosenbaum, true heroes.
Burn the precincts to the ground!
Every city, every town!
Burn the precincts to the ground!
Every city, every town!
Burn the
racist system! No back to the revolution! No back to the revolution! Shut it down! What do you want? Justice! Now! We don't get it!
In Oakland, organizers say they are standing in solidarity with Kenosha, Wisconsin. So this is a reaction to today's verdicts of acquittal in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. And so far, it appears the protests are peaceful. We have not heard any reports of violence or property damage.
Have you noticed that as everything around you seems to decline, one thing still grows? It is the power of your rulers. None of their plans and directives have solved your problems or made your life better. The only result has been their increased control over you at the cost of your freedom. Do you know why? You gave them the power.